All right, so today what we're going to be focusing on is going to be the Romantic paintings. So remember, we make that separation between what's called a draftsman or a linear painter and a colorist. So I'm going to show you examples of both. We're going to be looking at some different forms of Romantic painting. And then, depending how much time we have, we may start with talking a little bit about the Romantic composers. But to really understand what they're about, we have to look at what they're breaking away from, which brings us to the neoclassical composers. Oh yeah, so I guess we should start talking about your midterm a little bit. I haven't come up with a date for it yet, so it's going to be later, and you're having all your other ones, so don't worry about it now. I have to give you a midterm review sheet, and then we'll come up with a date. All right, so does anyone have any questions about anything we talked about last class? All right, now to really get you to appreciate just how much the Romantics are breaking away from the neoclassicists, we're going to look at two different works on the same theme, separated by about 350 years. So remember, with that hierarchy of artistic subjects, there's certain topics that are considered to be much more important than others. The ones most important are going to be the historical works and biblical works. Now, the further you go back in history, the more important the subject matter is seen. So the Romans are going to be seen as less important than the Greeks, because the Greeks are further back. All right, so let's look at these two works. We're going to first look at a very famous work of the neoclassical artist Nicolas Poussin. Poussin writes this work called The Abduction of the Sabines, and then we're going to look at a Romantic version by the great Romantic colorist Eugene Delacroix. That one's going to be called The Rape of the Sabine Women, but basically based on the same theme. Now, to give you some background for the work, there's this famous battle in Roman history where Roman soldiers invade other areas and rape the women of the places that they take over. So it's a famous event in Roman history. And then the Romantics and the neoclassicists are both going to do versions of this same theme. All right, so now thinking about the neoclassicists, what does neoclassicism stress? Jacob, yeah.
Order, symmetry.
Good. Okay, order, symmetry, restraint of emotion, colors that are not intense, that are very bland and balanced, and not grabbing for your attention. The Romantics are going to be all the things trying to grab your attention, trying to stand out. So let's look at the different ways that these two different artists examine this work. All right, so the first one, Poussin's The Abduction of the Sabines. right, so looking at this, so what are some neoclassical elements we can see here?
Buildings.
Okay, so,
They're very like symmetrical, orderly.
right, okay, so look at the building on the right and the one on the left. They're both very neoclassical looking with the columns, and then the bounds between the upper level of the building and the lower level. Very good. And then what else can we see here that's neoclassical? Yeah.
It was very clearly like a center, everything kind of like pinpoints in the middle.
Okay, good. So the spatial order. Yeah, and we can see the spatial order set by the blues here. So look what we have here. There's one, there's another, there's another, there's another, there's another. So bum, 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 bum. And then the one at the center being the largest and most prominent. All right, good. What else gives us indication it's neoclassical?
Would you say like everyone's wearing like the same 3 colors?
Okay, yes, so very restrained colors. None of these are particularly dramatic. Good. Okay, now what about the how truthful would you say this is? Does this look very believable, or does it look very posed and organized? It's an event like that. What's it really going to? Would it look
Chaos.
like this? Chaos, right? Exactly. Perfect. No chaos in this at all. Very restrained. You know, look at her. Does she look distraught, or is it very posed? It's very orderly. It's like trying to look like something's happening, but not. What about the centurion over there? Does he look? Does that look very truthful? No. Very, very posed. And nothing's kind of taking over. What about like her expression and her expression? Do they look terrified? Where like a horrible event like this?
No.
No. So it's an attractive looking work, but it's not very believable. So colors not very intense, highly defined spatial order, posed stance among the many of the figures. It's almost like when you have these operas where you have the person dying for the last 10 minutes, a dagger in their heart, and they're for 10 minutes. It's phony. It doesn't get us any sense of what's really happening. All right, so now let's look at a romantic interpretation of it. So we're going to look at this one by Delacroix. So now this is on the same theme, but what makes this one so much different? What are some romantic elements in this?
It's a lot more dramatic.
Okay, what makes it dramatic? You're right.
The colors, the scene in the picture.
Okay, so look at the colors, much more intense colors. Fiery reddish oranges. The orange and the red kind of almost burning up together. What else?
It's not like precise, everything's very blended together.
Good, blended together, so very chaotic, very suggestive rather than stated. Look at the figures, you can barely tell them apart. There's subtle elements of neoclassicism, but look at the columns. You can tell they're columns, but you can't tell what type, you can't see the lines in them, you can't see the balance of them, the perspective's off. This is very chaotic, like a horrible dream brought together. So look at even the horse head, almost looks like it's on fire there with the person riding it. And the really reddish orange, very intense colors, very strong contrast between colors.
The other one looks like it was very technical, and this one isn't.
Right, no, perfect, yeah. This one suggests a mood rather than a precise event. The other one, a very planned out, precise spatial orders. This one, just a generalized mood of anxiety and horror and chaos. So it's the same subject, but it's a vastly different treatment of it. And just look how much brighter the colors are. It doesn't have that serenity that we saw with all the spatial orders and the blues in the last one. All right, so who prefers the Poussin? Raise your hand. Okay, one. Okay, who prefers the two? Okay, who prefers the Delacroix? All right. Who doesn't care? I don't answer that. I can tell by the general mood in the room. But yeah, so this one definitely creating a much more intense emotional. You get the horror of the event. Because nobody's going to be going through an event like that and just be, posed and precise. All right, now looking at even the wording of the two. Which sounds more romantic, abduction or rape? Perhaps an unusual way to phrase it, but. But what do we what do we mean by romantic? I'm kind of playing off the words a little bit. Romantic's dramatic. So it's not what we usually think of as romantic. So which sounds more
Rape.
emotionally rape? Yeah, abduction is less dramatic. Okay, so now let's, Delacroix, by the way, is a colorist, so known for color as a way of indicating mood and atmosphere. And that's what we see in this, a lot of atmosphere. All right, now let's look at a work by Géricault. Now, Géricault is a, did everyone get the, all the stuff on the board? Okay. Géricault is, he's a draftsman and a linear painter. So obviously the distinction is going to be somewhat phony because at this point everything's going to have a line and shape as well as the use of color. But it's more what they're focus on more in their works. That's how they classify them. All right, so let's look at Jericho's work called The Raft of the Medusa, date on that 1819. And as you see, the rape of the Sabine women, that's one of his later works, it's 1850. All right, so the Raft of the Medusa. Now, let me give you some background on that. Now remember, we just talked about the idea that a work of its further in history is seen as a more important work. The more recent it is, the less important it's considered. Just like antiques are inherently seen as more valuable than something you just made yesterday in a Chinese sweatshop. All right, so now looking at the Raft of the Medusa. Now, Jericho read about this event in the papers, this horrific event where people were on the ship the Medusa, and they ended up, the boat was sinking, and they jump onto the Raft of the Medusa. So it's a true event. And they're there on the raft for over 10 days without food or water. Some even resorting to cannibalism. And I think only about 20% of the people made it. All right, so let's look at the Raft of the Medusa. All right, so let's see what makes this romantic. Well, one thing is large size. So it's on. Remember we talked about that the age-old question: does size matter? Well, in terms of art, it definitely does. So remember, the larger on a monumental scale, that shows it's an important work. So he's taking this insignificant theme, a modern contemporary theme, and doing it on a large scale. And so what romantic elements do we see here? Yeah.
Even the nature is dramatic.
Sorry, what's dramatic?
Like the waves and the nature.
Okay, so the waves, nature. Okay, great. Yeah. So look at the water behind the raft. So is that a significant storm, or is that just nice floating weather? Pretty strong, right? You don't want to be out in this rickety raft with the strong waves behind it. Okay. What else?
All of their like faces are like body pieces, like they're all like reaching to like save someone. They're all like all their faces are very like remorse.
Okay. Stop playing with the phone, please, and focus on this. All right. So look at the different expressions, and look at the different way people are handling this tragedy. Okay. We have. So if we look, now this guy dead already. This one dead. What about, how's this guy taking the situation? What would you say his reaction is?
Depressed.
Okay. He's definitely very depressed, okay. But looks like he kind of gave up, right? Is he going to try to fight it anymore? Just says it's useless. What about this guy? What's his reaction? What's he doing there?
He's reaching for something.
Okay, so he's trying to grab attention. He wants a ship that he sees in the horizon or he believes is there to rescue him. He may even be looking up at the heavens saying, God, help me from this horrible situation. And we definitely see that with this guy over here. Why is he waving his shirt? Is he just saying, hey, I have a nice body and has a good tan? Well, he does, but no, that's not the purpose there. He's trying to get the attention of anyone because this is their last chance. Now, how about the condition of the raft? Does this look like it's going to make it through much longer? No, it's really there at the end. And then look at this guy. He looks like he hasn't eaten in the whole week, but he hasn't. You also have people even drinking the salt water, knowing cognitively it's going to make them more thirsty, but wanting that momentary sensation of drinking something because they're so dry. So it has all these horrible circumstances. And what about even the kind of unusual colors we have here? Kind of this really sickly looking yellow. That's not a very common color. You actually don't see that really commonly until the 20th century. You see it in some of the works of the Surrealists like the Chico. It's almost a jaundice yellow, like a sickly, dying yellow. So it's this element of death and hopelessness. Some have given up. People resort to cannibalism here. They're even, eating the bodies of their compatriots. So now what would make cannibalism a romantic subject? We don't usually put those together in a sentence. Yeah.
It's just very dramatic.
Very dramatic. It's horrifying that you could go to a situation like that and resort to something like that. But, we have historical examples. The Donner Party, for example. All right, so now let's look at some other works. So he's a linear painter, so you see much more precise use of line and shape in this work than we saw in the Delacroix. All right, so now let's look at some, these are called the Portraits of the Insane. They're kind of a collection of different works. Now, what Géricault does is he goes into Paris lunatic asylum and looks for the most disgusting, decrepit, insane-looking people he can find. And he's going to portray them with as much care and skill as you would normally show for Napoleon. Now, what people were usually shown in portraiture? What class of people?
High class.
No
High
building.
class, yeah. Like, and then how are they usually going to be shown?
Pristine condition.
Okay. But how would they be dressed? Royally. Okay, so very well dressed. We have some examples of that in Lasker. Look at those presidents of the university as you go up between the first and third floor. They're on kind of the left side. What kind of frames are they in? Very serious looking, dark, frequently walnut or mahogany frames. What kind of pose do they have? Very somber. They're not laughing, they're not smiling. They're serious expressions on their face. They're wearing dark suits and red ties and white shirts. What would stand out among them? How about someone wearing an orange jumpsuit? How about a minority figure? So that's not what you expect. Well, let's see what Jericho does to shock people, because that's what he's trying to do. Okay, so here's some of his portraits of the insane. Okay, so look at this figure. Does that look like someone very wealthy and important? Do they look like somebody cognitively there, or is it very vacant looking? Or what about this figure over here? So on the site hot or not, which one is that going to be under? How about this friendly looking foot? Anyone want that on their wall? It's like some inspiration. Or look at the expression on her face. So these are figures you would not normally see one of the greatest artists of all time focusing on. Why is he doing this? What do you think? He wants to shock us.
I was gonna say it's not traditional.
Yeah, untraditional, because it's shockingly untraditional. Is what's going to be the thing that you notice? What's going to be the thing that's going to be talked about? You're going to, yeah.
I think even the name would get a rise out of people because it's very, like, I mean, at the time, you don't really go around talking about, oh yeah, well, like, insane relative or whoever.
Right. No, I mean, that's true as well. Well, it's like if you're walking in the museum, remember people are going to the museums a lot, and what are you going to notice? A perfectly crafted bowl of apples, grapes, and oysters. Well, that'd be a weird combo, but or a gang rape scene 30 feet wide, or another picture of Napoleon on top of the horse, holding his rather wholesome, shall we say, belly. No, you're going to be looking at someone that looks like her because you're not used to seeing them. I mean, nowadays, unfortunately, we are, but at this time they were put away. So that's what they're all about. Evoking emotion, making you feel something. Horror, sympathy, anger, just feel something. Just remember what Lord Byron said, you feel alive when you're in terrific pain or, the person you love most in the world brutally murdered before you. That's when you feel something. So it's better to feel that than feel nothing. All right, let's look at another romantic. Let's look at Caspar David Friedrich. All right, let me give you a little background about Friedrich. Friedrich is a German romantic, and Friedrich had a very sad thing happen to him that influences him for the rest of his life. Now, he had a younger brother, and they were in rural Germany. His brother went ice skating on a pond. And remember, it's North Germany, it's not Minnesota. So it's not that you can guarantee it's going to be solid ice. It's like, why do they tell you not to go skating on Lake Archer? It's, it may hold you, but it very well may not. So his brother goes ice skating. He is in the middle of the pond. The ice breaks. He gets trapped beneath the pond. He drowns and freezes to death. Friedrich is there on the side. There's nothing he can do. That influences him for the rest of his life. So we're going to look at free works by Friedrich. What Friedrich's known for, you see in a lot of his works, he shows gloom, pathos, melancholy, loneliness, isolation. With religious overtones. Okay, we're going to look at his Abbey in the Oak Forest. I think the date on that's 1808. All right, so what do we have here? What makes this work romantic? What's the general mood here? Remember, the romantics are all about mood. Lonely, okay. It is very lonely. It's isolated, right? What about those oaks there? Is that a very welcoming looking tree? Nah, there's something about the big barren oaks. I actually used to have 3 really big ones in front of my house, and they really do look like that, particularly in the winter. All right, now what about these figures we see here? Or is that what they are? Or what else could they be? Graveyard. It almost looks like a graveyard, doesn't it? Now, does this look like a working abbey? Is this still being used? Nah, so it's one from the past, right? So they look like gravestones. They could be figures, or they could be graves. And what about like that kind of yellowish, brownish sepia tone? That's kind of spooky in itself. Almost like, fading old letters. Even look here at the cross. The cross is on its side, showing the religion is, maybe once prominent, but no longer is. All right, let's look at another work by Friedrich. All right, so look at this work. So what do we have here? We have what we used to have. so looking at this, what's the general atmosphere here? What's the mood?
30% off.
Yep. Isn't advertising great?
Nothing, like,
Very
there's
barren,
nothing
right?
happening.
Nothing's very still. But now, when we think it's still, what comes to mind? Is it restful or is it lonely?
Lonely.
Yeah. So this is very lonely. That one figure, he's blocked by the dark river. You can't even see his face. All you see is his long cassock. All you see as a person is this little tiny white monk head. The land he's on, that could be snow. There's the clouds behind it. So it's not restful. It's just lonely and isolated and gloomy.
Barren.
Very barren, yes. All right, now, actually, Friedrich is the most popular artist among Tim Burton. So he loves the works of Friedrich. I think we can, yeah, I was gonna say, I think we can see a lot of reasons why. All right, let's look at one more by Monk. I'm sorry, Friedrich. There's another artist, Monk, but that's not what we're talking about. All right, this one's called Wanderer. Okay, bit different mood here. What does that kind of show us?
That's more peaceful to me.
Why?
I don't know. It's just open, but it's not like
There's somewhere to go.
nothing.
Well, it's lighter. Now, I agree with you. I don't disagree at all.
I think this one's much more isolated. This is just like,
So
you're in the middle of
he's his
nowhere.
own, yeah, he's in his own place. Yeah, but weren't the other ones completely isolated too?
Yeah, I think it's like the mountain scene, like it's like he's on top of a mountain, there's like,
Okay, so nothing from the sea?
I-
We
but
can tell certain things about him. What can we tell, what class is he, do you think?
Probably upper.
Okay, why? What gives us that indication? Yeah, he has the long coat, he has the walking stick. So he could be in self-contemplation, he could be looking at the beautiful vista, or he could be dreaming of jumping off. So,
It's more peaceful to me because I think it's because he chose to be there.
okay, the others.
He's on the top of a mountain.
The
You
others
can't just, like,
You don't just
be
end
there.
up there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting take on it. Now, this actually became I don't know, film about 7 or 8 years ago. They had this as their artwork for the main thing advertising the film. I was kind of surprised to see it. I can't remember what the film is. Okay, but you definitely see the religious associations, the isolation, the melancholy. They're common in the works of Friedrich. All right, let's look at one more artist. This one's called Turner. Turner, probably the most famous English artist of the 19th century. J.M. Turner is known for doing a lot of works of disasters, earthquakes, gales, fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, so a lot of shipwrecks. Now, I actually took a course in a graduate school in Turner, and I have to admit that exam for that course is probably the hardest one I ever had, because I'm gonna just show you overall what his works look like, and then we'll look at that one work. So if you look at his works overall, his works get more and more desolate and isolated as it goes on, but a lot of them look very similar. They're hard to identify. So what we had as the exam for that course is they gave us 20 slides by Turner, and they said we had to analyze them and name them, and talk about the medium they're in. So, but a lot of them look pretty similar. So let's look at some Turner seascapes. All right, I'm just giving you an overview of what it looks like at first, and then we'll look at that one work. People often find them very beautiful. He wrote like a lot of different, he created a lot of different works, but look how undefined they are. So the more abstract it got, like this would be a much later work than this one, where you could tell easily it's a ship. But some of them have some really gorgeous colors. So like how do you describe this versus this versus this? They're pretty similar, but they represent different subjects in his works. So kind of a hard course. All right, this one I want to talk about is this one. If you would go to the art museum at some point, you can actually see this one. It's there in their collection, Johnson Gallery on the second floor. This one's called The Burning of the Houses of Parliament. Now, I've told you before I love orange, so I think that's one of the reasons I really like this work. A lot of orange in there. Now, okay, so what do we see here? Well, what about Tower Bridge here? Does that have much chance of making it? No, it's pretty much gone. Now, what about the fire itself? It's consuming everything, but at the same time, it's also very beautiful. And what do people do? They did the same here as we do when we see an accident on the road. We gawk at it and go. They're doing the same thing. So is there any chance they're ever going to be able to stop this themselves? Is there any way to put that out? Is there anything they can do about it? Can they ever cross this bridge again? No. It just shows the people staring at the spectacle of it, like we look at fireworks. So they're beautiful, but also terrifying. So this is called The Burning of the Houses of Parliament. Okay, which of these artists do you like the best? Who likes Friedrich the best? Raise your hand. Yeah, I think I would go with Friedrich myself, yeah. All right, who likes Poussin the best? Anyone? How about Turner? He's usually pretty popular. Okay, so interesting to see. All right, have a good weekend and see you on Tuesday. We're going to start talking about the romantic composer.